Good morning, traders. Today is Thursday, March 31st. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. Sorry I'm running a bit late this morning. All right, so what are we looking at here in the markets? Well, yesterday was a balancing day. The market traded a little bit lower, partially filled a gap that we had left behind. So that kind of leaves a sort of unfinished auction to the downside. It's a bit strange that we only partially filled that gap after doing all the work of getting ourselves from all the way up here. Where did we open? Opened up here at 46.14, worked our way all the way down to the lows, but then left some gap behind. That's a bit strange, right? That's sort of a weird thing to see in the market. So my first order of business this morning is to ask myself, is the market still balancing, or is it starting a new trend in a new direction? So at the moment, what I'm looking for at the lows, if we break 45.81, I'll look to fill the gap, right? People want to finish that auction to the downside. Didn't quite fill the gap yesterday. Get down there, fill the gap. I'll be looking for support just below the gap in this very large node of volume on the cumulative here at 45.60s area. And then to the above us, if we can get through all this resistance, this is going to be very strong resistance now to the top side, starting at about 4,600 up to about 46.05 from the last few days. So if we get up to there and we are able to break through that resistance, I will look for a continuation of the uptrend, because we did have value overlapping to higher yesterday. So technically, even though it was a balancing day, the trend is still intact to the upside. So if we're able to get through all this resistance this morning, I would see that as a potential for the market to continue higher. Just needed a little bit of balance, and then it's ready for its next leg, right? But as long as we're kind of bouncing around in the middle, it feels uncertain to me. In between here and here, the market could kind of keep grinding around and go either way. So that's where I'm at. Below, looking for a gap fill and then support. Above, looking for a breakout or looking for resistance, and if we don't get it, breakout. And of course, door number 3 is always rotation. There's a very real chance we could just continue to balance around in this area for the rest of the day. And of course, if we break through this node down here, if we get below like 45.60, I would get very bearish for continuation to the downside, as we would be beginning a new trend down. But way too early to make that call. First, we got to fill the gap. All right, so we're testing this little bottom node of support that we had from yesterday. That support should give us enough to push back up into here and see, do we find resistance at the halfback? Do we find resistance in this node that we just created around the opening? With only 97 contracts at the halfback, we should certainly come back and test that at the very least for resistance. 63 contracts above it as well. So we need some more trade up here. David Glass, first one in this morning. Good morning to you. Cyrus is here. Sanju in the house. MW, good to see you. TV back with us. All right, so no resistance at the halfback. Now we're looking at that node. Oh, yeah, actually some resistance there. Next, we'll look to see, does this node around the open hold as resistance? Remember, if this support breaks, the next stop is the gap fill down here. Would seem the NQ is much more bearish today. Just looking at the ticks, they're like exact opposites. All right, so we are getting resistance here. Still just chop because we're inside the previous day's range, bouncing between support and resistance. But if this support now breaks, that is a sign they want to go fill that gap. Man, the advancers versus decliners is pumping. So there appears to be support stepping in here. Buyers are trying to hold it up. Oh boy, somebody's making big bets. Are they going long or are they going short? Looks like they're buyers. NQ and ES playing a little tug of war here. ES trying to hold this support. NQ trying to go lower. Well, the NQ just filled that gap. So that takes some of the downward pressure off. Excuse me. Gap is filled. They could find support here. Amir, good morning to you. Welcome. Laser Eye in the house. Good to see you. David V. Welcome, welcome. Greg H is with us. Good morning to you. Hustler Forever. Good to see you. Scooball is here. John back with us. Rev in the house. Novice Trader, good morning to you. Nor Auto Trader, good morning to you. Jason, welcome. Ronald, good to see you. Random Barbarian, morning to you. Caffeine, welcome. Boss Man is here. Trading Donkey, go home. Advancers versus decliners. You're drunk. Well, they may have been the signal. If this is support building right here, they may have been the signal. that the big players think the momentum stocks, the ones going up, are the ones to play today. They got in early. Chief, good morning to you. FRM, good to see you. Ronald, good morning. Joe, welcome. Ravi, good morning to you. Scooball, what do I think about the previous day's closing price? Not much. Do you mean, what do I think about the big move down that pulled back up into the range? It was just kind of like a liquidation break for the market. Like I said, there's two ways to look at yesterday. Obviously, is balance, right? It clearly was just a balancing day. The market wasn't ready to go any higher. We didn't make new highs. And on the way down, it didn't even fully fill the gap. So it wasn't like it was bearish. It just kind of needed to balance for a day. It needed to cool off. But the interesting part about it is the fact that the value remained overlapping to higher. So technically, that might be telling us this was all the cooling off we needed. All right, getting back through that resistance is bullish. The market found support. So now we need to head up into here and test this there's a lot of resistance above from the last 2 days and the overnight last night. All in here. But it looks like we need to head up there and test some of that resistance. I'm bullish on the short term. So now we're looking for halfback to become support, or the node that acted earlier as support to remain so for continuation to the upside. All right, do we get buyers? Do we get support? Well, that's interesting. I guess I was early on my bullish call. We're still chopping. Yeah, I suppose I really should have waited for the retest, get through here, come back down, find support. That's really when I should have got bullish. So we're still chopping here, but the internals look good. I'm not loving that the halfback is acting as resistance here. Mohammed, good morning to you. Scooball, no, only the closing price if we open above or below. The only way I think about that is the overnight auction, right? So when I look at where we closed yesterday up here, and then where we opened this morning down here, I just know that the overnight inventory had to have been a little bit more short than long in order to get us down here. So there might need to be a little bit of a counter auction to the upside to absorb some of that overnight activity. But other than that, no, I don't really pay much attention to it. Value is much more important. Is value higher or lower than yesterday's value? All right, well, they're holding those ticks. There are buyers stepping in by the skin of their teeth. Like I said, the thing I'd really like to see is to get through this node and then come back down and find support there. That would really be bullish. Right now, this is kind of still just chop. Two Manifs, good morning to you. Rocket got the ES off 82. Just scalping today. Jack, welcome. Good to see you. JTrader going down 75 70s. If this, low that we just created in the A period breaks, yeah, I think we're going all the way down to fill the gap. But let's see. There's been buyers so far. Oh boy. All right, well that's the break, and that is bearish. As it will likely target, traders will now likely be targeting a gap fill to the downside. So just like that, switch from buying support to selling resistance. Okay, so we're obviously looking for the area that was just acting as support to now become resistance. Right here around 83, 84. Okay, so potentially support around yesterday's low, but I doubt it. Just because that gap is unfinished business. The market knows there's buyers waiting down there at 69, and it wants to fill that liquidity. Amir. Pulled a donkey joke on us. Okay, so once again, we're now looking for resistance between like 83.75 and 85.25. Above, the former support often becomes resistance once the move breaks in that direction. We've got good taper on the low, but I don't love the 16 contracts. So I think we still need some more trade down here at the low. So we're looking for that resistance. Laser Eye. The low right now shows as 25 contracts for you? That's very weird. I cannot explain that. So funny how the two markets are kind of working against each other. Earlier, in like the first 15 minutes of the day, the ES was strong, finding support, but the NQ was weak, breaking lower. And now it's the opposite. The ES has gotten weak and the NQ is finding strength. So they're obviously rolling something over. They're selling some S&Ps and buying some NQs, or selling some NQs and buying some S&Ps. Somebody's readjusting their portfolio. Oh, it's the end of the month. Oh, that's why it's the end of the month. Jesus, why didn't I think of that? Oh, you're trading the micros. That's what it is then. Yeah, this is the regular ES. End of a month and end of a quarter. Okay, yeah. Ah, I see. I see. Well, then rotation makes a lot of sense. Everybody's got to get positioned for next time, for next month, next quarter. David V, could you say more about the implications for the end of the month? Yeah, I'm not really probably the person to dive into that. I've barely ever just scratched the surface, but essentially it's just the way, all the big portfolio managers, they're like six on each month or whatever. So they're constantly at the end of the month trying to squeeze out as much money from the position that they're in then and set themselves up for what they want to, the kind of position they want to hold for the next month or the next quarter or whatever, and kind of get themselves allocated. So there's a lot of like bouncing around. So that's why it makes perfect sense to me that like the ES was strong as the NQ was weak, and now the ES is weak as the NQ is strong, because it's like they're just buying and selling. They're selling one company to buy another. They want to have less tech and they want to have more of this or whatever. You know what I mean? To position themselves moving forward. But the technicals are still in play. There is liquidity waiting in the 500 stocks that make up the S&P 500. There's liquidity waiting on that gap fill. So that is still what I've got my eye laser focused on. Ticks are showing buyers stepping in. Yeah, it might be a tricky day with the internals. Thanks for the sub. Excuse me. Thanks for the sub, X Mikes. All right. Can this resistance hold once again? Obviously, the more time we spend bouncing around in here, the more it's starting to feel like rotation. If the sellers are going to get that gap filled, they should do it soon. Sorry if my voice sounds weird. I have a peanut stuck in the back of my throat and it's driving me nuts. Like a tiny little shred that's just stuck in there. Fausto, welcome. Good to see you. Rocket's done for the day. I am always jealous every time you post that. How would you help, Donkey? Like, let's get specific. What are you implying? Douglas, take a big swig of Coca-Cola. Well, that's the problem. I'm drinking coffee that has mushrooms in it too, so it's like the mushrooms are like sticking to it. It's just it's a mess back there. Mixed stockster. Give it hell. That is really what I need to do. One of those like long, loud, dying cat type of situations. Just hacking at it. There we go. Buyers starting to give up. Starting to say, well, there's not enough of us to hold this market up. That generally means the market needs to pull down to a lower price and look for buyers there. Laser eye, it's a mix of 4 different mushrooms, but it's mostly, lion's mane. Oh, man. Yeah, I just saw that. BTC is dumping. Looking for support around 45,680. Still looks strong to me. Excess leads to balance. And then to the moon. So the B period low is considered weak here because it is one tick from yesterday's low, increasing the odds it needs repair. Who is it, would you say, that's buying right at yesterday's low? Is that where we think the good, strong hands buyers are waiting? Or do we think that was just some short-term traders looking to make a quick buck on a bounce? And they'll get out of their trade real quick. Amir, that was you? You bought that low? Hey, it was a great play if you took the scalp. I wouldn't fall in love with it. All right. Well, with printing the C period here, I'm surprised we're getting buyers. But again, they're not buying because of what's happening in the charts right now. They're buying because they're reallocating for next month. You know, their decisions to buy, they made it in a boardroom a week ago. So I'm a little less bearish at this moment, but I do still believe the highest probability move today will be for the C period to come down and repair the weak low that we just created. That will begin the process of one time framing lower and get us back into the gap we left behind. So I would be looking for a gap fill at that point down to 45.69. I'll be wrong if they get if they get back above this node just above us at 45.85. If they get through that again, I'll probably be looking for a sideways day that just kind of bounces around inside yesterday's range, the lower end of yesterday's range. But we'll see. With that, I bid you all farewell. I wish you a happy Thursday and wonderful trading. And I shall see the brigade members on the private stream. Thanks a lot, guys.